In this hour, we're going to visit with one of my favorite writers and a columnist over at the Bakersfield Californian, Steve Flores, and a fellow member of the media. And I'll let him, he'll tell it much better than I can paraphrase it, but he wrote just a really warm piece that was in yesterday's paper, and I thought it really hopefully it resonated with readers the way it did with me about the differences, big and small, that we can all make in the lives of other people every day. All those opportunities are around us. We just need to take a look at them. So we're going to talk to Steve. I'm excited about that because we also worked together a number of years ago after I left full-time TV news, and I did infomercials, and I also did some work for KGov, for the county government channel, when Steve was over at Employers Training Resource. So we go way back. Welcome back to the Ralph Baley Show for this Tuesday, August 5th. I'm your host. I'm filling in for Ralph today, Lisa Kimble with Bakersfield Life Magazine and Live Well over the Californian. And I was sort of setting this up before the break. It's sort of a family affair in the studio today. J.R. Flores is at the controls, making sure I do things the way I'm supposed to for the next few hours. And my first guest today is just one of my favorite people, Steve Flores, who's a columnist with the Bakersfield Californian, and we go way back. Welcome, Steve.
Lisa, thank you so much for having me on the show. I've been on the Ralph Baley Show several times before, and hands down, no doubt, you are so much prettier than Ralph. Yes, and so much nicer.
This dress looks a little bit better.
She's not worn that color before, but you're right.
Well, thank you. And I should mention, too, that your JR is your nephew.
I'm the proud uncle of JR.
Yeah.
Watched him grow up and has a great career here in radio.
Well, it's nice to have the Floreses in the house.
We are in the house
today. So we go way back. We go back to the days of, I want to say 1995 or 96, when you were involved over at Employers Training Resource. Does that sound about right?
Way back before
Maybe
then.
before then.
And it's been fun watching your career too, Lisa Kimble, because I know you're an Emmy Award winner, broadcaster, journalist. You've covered
guilty as charged.
Presidents, a visit from a pope. You've covered, I don't know how many red carpets for the Oscars have you covered?
You got it. You hit it.
How many?
Yeah,
How
where'd
many?
you find that bio?
No, really. I have it in my day planner. Every time I read about Lisa, I write it down about how great you're doing.
Well, I was blessed with a wonderful career, tremendous opportunities, and I think I covered Oscars red carpet 4 times, I think.
Wow.
But it was a wonderful career, and I tell young people, the business has changed dramatically, as you know.
Right, it has.
But it's a wonderful career if you're willing to travel, and if you're not tied down with a family, and
don't want any other life than doing journalism. That's what you do.
And of course, that industry has changed too. But what have you been up to these days? And we go back to KGov and then beyond that. But what have you been up to?
Way back. I started my career in. Okay, here's an oxymoron. It's government communication, and that's what I've been doing for about the past 31 years.
You've been trying to figure out how that works.
Yeah, doing that over my career, working for several county departments and helping them establish communication plans and outreach and marketing and those kinds of things.
Well, I've had the pleasure of working with you on some projects, and you are most efficient.
Award-winning, because you were involved with it. Now, I know you've received many awards. Right, Lisa? But one of the ones that I know you're really proud of is from your college, Mount St. Mary's College. 2011, what were you awarded?
Oh, you've been doing your homework,
what were you
Mr.
awarded?
Flores.
The people need to know this.
Oh, gosh, I'm blushing. I was, I received their Outstanding Alumni Award.
For community service.
Which I was really honored. I'm a graduate of Mount St. Mary's College in Los Angeles.
Right.
And, gosh, Steve, you're good at this.
Well, the only point where we conflict is that you are a Garces Ram.
I'm a Ram.
And I'm a South High Rebel.
Oh, but I married a West High. I know JR's
That's even worse.
Of air pumping. I married a West High Viking, right?
Mighty Rebels.
Who went on to become an Oregon Duck. I'm the mother of an Ole Miss Rebel and an Arizona Wildcat. So good old Garces,
Right.
which I saw today that they received some money from, I think, one of the Rotary clubs here in town, our foundation.
Good. All schools need more money for sure.
Don't they though?
Right.
Yeah. So what else are you doing these days? Did you retire officially? Or?
Yeah, retired from the county, but have been busy doing other things, helping other community agencies and departments with things that they think I might be able to help them with. So that's been keeping me really busy. And, of course, writing for the Bakersfield Californian is something that I've been doing for several years now.
Which is what prompted the invitation to come on this show, which we'll
thank
talk
you.
about
I appreciate
in a
that.
moment. Let's sidestep this for a second. You're also very musically inclined.
Well, that was, the first question I was going to ask you on air, so there's no way you can back out of this.
Did you want to sing?
I hear you can sing.
Well, in a shower, in my car, sure.
Okay,
to
what
my
about
iPod.
In front of a sold-out crowd at the Crystal Palace, helping raise money for local cancer patients?
You know what? You had me at Crystal Palace.
Okay.
Yep, it's a deal.
So next year, it's already been reserved. We're ready to go next year, June 27th of 2015.
Oh, I will plan on it.
I'm already recruiting, and we need all the pretty faces we can get and great talent.
Well,
So
for our listeners who might not understand exactly what we're talking about, give us the Cliff Note version of what you and other reporters and anchors in town have done over the last few years and the money that you've raised.
Right. It was started. We've been doing the Media Jam for many years now, but I think we finally found a home, and we found a cause that we want to help with because we've changed different benefits throughout the year to help. And so now we are working for the joyfully helping the Kern County Cancer Fund. And what I decided to do was to ask some of my media friends if they would come on and perform with the band I'm in called Thee Majestics. And Thee Majestics are celebrating 50 years of being together this year, originally out of East Bakersfield High School.
Is that right?
Yeah, so this year we had 22 guest media performers perform with us on stage at the Crystal Palace. Each one of them got up and sang a couple of songs. And all the money we raise that night goes directly to the Kern County Cancer Fund. Now, the Kern County Cancer Fund is a local agency, nonprofit, where all the money goes to residents of Kern County who are affected by cancer. None of it leaves the county area. It all stays here.
That is such a wonderful, wonderful effort that really has been gaining steam the last couple of years.
Right.
Because you talk to families who are impacted directly by cancer who, in addition to worrying about their loved one, are wondering whether they're going to be able to pay their utility bill that month or be able to go to the market to get groceries to feed the rest of the family.
Right, and to have to choose between those two in treatment for a loved one is despair defined. It's just something that I pray that people don't have to go through, but they do. Mm-hmm. And thankfully for the Kern County Cancer Fund, now there's that resource that's available to them, and we're one of only several major events that go on through the year that contributes to this, because that's the only way they have money to provide to the families is through fundraisers like this. But it's a fun night. We have a lot of your cohorts that you used to work with back in the day.
Well, I went. I wasn't able to go this year, but I went last year, and there's some of them when they opened their mouths, I couldn't believe how it was.
How good they sounded.
I mean, some are givens like Mike Hart and Jimmy Scott, and it was just a fun. It's just one of those win-win events. It's just kind of a great way to kick off summer. You're helping a good cause. A lot of people in this community, they really want to see kind of the. They want to give and see a direct line to what they're giving and where it's going.
Right.
And they don't want to give money that's going to be kind of funneled and sifted through all these administrative fees and all of that stuff.
Right.
Right. And it was just a lot of fun, a great venue and a great night. How much did you guys raise this year?
Last year we raised $30,000. This year we raised almost $51,000. So in one night, we were pretty happy with that.
Wow.
And yeah,
that's tremendous.
And you're right, there were some givens there. Now I don't know why you say Jim Scott. Now, Jim, he doesn't normally do this unless it's karaoke someplace.
Or in his back garage over a foosball table or something.
Now, Mike Hart, he plays in bands and stuff,
Sure.
but it was the whole morning crew from Channel 23. It was Mike Hart and Elena Rusk, Aaron Briscoe. They were all there, and it was just so much fun. And Jim Scott, Jansen,
Maddie Jansen.
Yeah. And from 29, there were so many from that group. It was just a lot of fun.
Some great pipes, some great vocals.
Well, and there's some, like we had Sean Collins. I don't know if you know that name.
Sure.
Sean Collins, the PIO for Public Information Officer for the Kern County Fire Department. What we do is we rehearse before the event, so people come over and they're really serious about having fun. And so when Sean Collins shows up at my house, and Sean, I love you so much. He walked in, he never met the band before, and the first thing he says, Lisa, he goes, "I can't sing." And we go, "Okay, well, we've been here before."
No big deal.
No.
Not a requirement.
No. So we went from that night to when he performed on the stage in front of the sold out crowd again, and he just nailed it. He was so good. So there's a lot of, new talents that we discover, and a lot of veterans, too, that we ask to come back. But overall, it's a really fun event, and that's the one night where, as you know, Lisa, there's so much competition in media locally between ABC, CBS, all of them, and the radio stations. But for that one night, it all goes away.
Isn't it wonderful?
And, you're hand in hand, kumbaya, everybody's getting along. It's just a beautiful, beautiful night.
For really a great purpose. And it reminds me a little bit of, back in the days with the News Brothers.
Oh, yeah.
That which sort of
right.
preceded this, although I don't know that they did a lot of fundraising, but all their gigs that they used to play down at the Alley Cat with...
And I hear they're still around. Every once in a while I'll hear their name pop up somewhere, like at Brewfest. I understand they get together once a year for that event.
They do, and they're hired sometimes to play corporate events around the country. And
right.
But Kevin Keeshan, he's now back in New York. Carl Schweitzer's still here. I think Bill Woodward, I believe, is in the Phoenix area, so they're kind of scattered.
Right.
But I think they do still pop up every now and then. So
well, the great thing about that band is that first of all, they were good musicians and they had a lot of fun when they performed. But a lot of people, there was the curiosity factor. You wanted to come and see, can Carl really play? Can these guys really do it? And that's, I think, part of the success for our Media Music Jam that we have, is that people want to come, can Jim really sing? Can Maddie really sing? And to their surprise, they can.
They can. Yeah. Well, kudos to you and the group, and thank you for the invitation. I'm going to hold you to it.
Okay, but now, so give me your song style. What do you?
Oh my gosh. Earth, Wind and Fire. My kids laugh at my iPod playlist.
Okay.
Kenny Loggins. I'll have to get with you later. We could.
Earth, Wind and Fire. We got the whole library from Earth, Wind and Fire, so we got that covered for sure.
Okay, good. Well, we're going to take a quick break. We're talking to Steve Flores, columnist for the Bakersfield Californian, who wrote a really moving piece that appeared in yesterday's paper. We're going to talk more about him, the column, the experience behind the column, and what we can all do to help one another when the Ralph Baley Show for this Tuesday afternoon returns. I'm your host, Lisa Kimble. Stay with us. Now you're talking.
There we go. Thank you, Mio.
My folks, my people. Thank you, JR. And, I love her. No pressure, but I love the 20th September. Just saying.
Okay.
Welcome back to the Ralph Baley Show for this Tuesday, August 5th. I'm the guest host, Lisa Kimble, filling in for Ralph, who's taking some well-deserved time off. And I'm visiting with Bakersfield Californian columnist and just great guy, Steve Flores, and one of my fellow members of the media. You also spent some time at KERO, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. And I started, I think, probably when you were very young, like 12 or 13, when you were doing the weekend reporting on what's going on the weekend.
You're so kind.
But we were starting to talk about, I want to ask you, what's your favorite Burley Smith story from the set? Do you have one?
Oh,
because I have one.
Oh my gosh! We could do an entire show. We could do an entire week of shows. Burley and I shared an office, and so when you share an office with somebody, as you get to know them, rather well.
Now, for those who don't know Burley Smith, he was the Walter Cronkite of local news.
Exactly. He was revered. He was a wonderful man, and had been a KERO for many, 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 many years. He really was the dean of broadcasters
now,
here.
I need to ask you this, though. When you're in the office with him, did he smoke the cigar in the office with you?
Well, he did until smoking became a no-no in California. But, I have a lot of fun. He had colorful language. He was, he was cool cucumber. And on the set, there were just a lot of tomfoolery that went on, just a lot of, we'd laugh during commercial breaks, and he got the giggles a lot, which he was known for. And, Burley and I used to co-anchor the noon show together. And, sometimes something would get him on a roll, and you just couldn't rein him in. He couldn't stop laughing.
It was so much fun.
What's your favorite story?
Well, that's it. I was in the news director room as he's directing the news, and Bertie gets one of those giggles, and he can't stop. And then pretty soon, I can't remember. I think Steve Talbot was with them, and
Judy Sorch, I think, and Steve Talbot.
They were all getting in. The director's yelling, cut to commercial to try and save the show, because it was just a giggle fest.
It truly was.
I have a lot of respect for him. He was a really great man.
He was a wonderful man and a great mentor. And let me tell you, too, a lot of fun on Christmas parade floats. But that's, as I said, that's another show for another time and another day.
Right.
But good times working in newsrooms. And how many years now have you been writing a weekly column for the Californian?
Well, it started with, this is going to sound terrible to say, but with Katrina in 2005, Homeland Security, because of the work I do in government communication, the oxymoron, asked me to go back and help with their communication team. And so I was back there for a couple of weeks and helping out with that. And while I was back there, a friend of mine, Olivia Garcia, who worked for the Bakersfield, California, said, "Steve, just send us whatever you're doing back there. Just send us something, so we might consider that for a column." And so I did. And they asked me to do it the whole time that I was there after the first column. Then when I got back, I completely forgot about writing about anything, and she called me up. She says, "We'd like you to do a monthly column." So it's been since about 2004. Doesn't seem that long, or that I've written that many columns, but it's really been that long.
Well, I love each and every one of them. My husband, who's a voracious reader, Craig, my husband is an attorney. I always like to give him a plug because he likes to.
Craig the attorney.
Craig Edmonston, the attorney.
Okay, my nephew is the
the guy behind you with the controls.
Shout out to that.
And every now and then Ralph will, and Craig loves it when, professionally I was Lisa Kimble before I married Craig Edmonston, but anyway, I always like to give him a plug. But he is your biggest fan, I have to tell you. Wow. He reads a lot. Obviously, as an attorney, he has to, and he, reads a lot of newspapers, and you really are his. He said, the thing I like about Steve, because I told him that you were going to be coming on the show today, and he says, the great thing is that he gets his message across, and his writes so beautifully, but he doesn't really write about himself. I mean, in a way, this column that appeared in yesterday's paper really was about your personal experience, but it wasn't about you, which I think is that's tricky for writers, and sometimes it's easier to talk about ourselves, and not so well, really. But this column in particular yesterday really tugged at my heartstrings, and I'm hoping that it really resonated with a lot of the Californians' readers. So you can explain better than I ever could paraphrase. Sum it up for those who haven't read it yet. They can read it online, of course.
Well, the first thing is thank your husband for reading the column, and I'm glad I have one fan. So
yeah, two.
Okay, two, and maybe three with JR in the booth.
he's obligated genetically, so
right. Basically, the column is about this last column was about my encounter with someone who needed help, and how other people seemed to he was like invisible to people. They would walk right by him and not pay any attention to him, even though he was struggling with where he was at and what he was trying to do. And how that encounter affected me, and how it took me way back to when my grandmother came to live with us and helped raise my 7 brothers and sisters. And one of the things she said to me was, as we were growing up, is that she was very religious. She went to Mass. If she could every day, we were at Mass, which was a good thing. Back when you're 13, 14, and 15, you kind of wonder about it, but it's a really good thing. And one of the things she said to us is that Jesus will come to us in many different shapes or forms, and you just never know when it's going to be. And although I didn't put that same verbiage in the column, I always remember that when I encounter a situation like this where someone who needs help, then I'm able to interact with them, and someone who obviously needed help, who didn't ask for any like you would expect from what you would consider to be quote unquote a homeless panhandler, and he didn't ask for any of that. And so
this was in downtown
Bakersfield. I was leaving one of my favorite restaurants downtown and heading to go get my car, and there was this man who was in a wheelchair, and he was in the intersection. He was trying to get across, but one of his wheels was stuck on one of the pieces in the concrete. So people were just walking right by him, and he was just there. So I walked up to him and I said, "Do you mind if I push you across the intersection?" And he said, "Sure." So pushed him across, and when I pushed him across, that's when I totally realized that in my life I may have been desperate and thought I needed things, but this person needed all the prayer, all the hope, and any kindness, compassion that he could get. So I pushed him across the street, and as I was pushing him across the street, I noticed a couple of things about him. One was that he had this like a surgical scar from the base of his skull down to the top of his spine. His arm was contorted up to his chest. It obviously was disabled. And everything on him, all the color was gone. It was like he was part of the concrete. He was like invisible. And that's what I thought when I saw that. He really looks like people, like he doesn't want to be seen, or that people can't see him.
Your piece was so really descriptive, as if he just blended into the background of our lives, really.
That's how I felt when I saw him. And he was just so, I don't even know how to say it, Lisa. He was just so thankful for that little gesture that I did. And once I got him across the street, it was the perfect opportunity for him to ask me for money. And I totally expected it, because he definitely was in need. And I said, if you're going to the next intersection, I'll push you to wherever you want to go. And he says, no, you've done enough. I really appreciate what you did. And, in a very genuine, caring, like he really appreciated that small little thing that I did. And so I said, okay, well, good luck to you. He says, well, thank you very much. And as he was moving his wheelchair down the sidewalk, he can only push with one hand. And his tennis shoes were completely worn out, because he had to shuffle along with his feet also. And that's when my grandmother's voice came to me and said, he'll come to you in many ways. And I thought, you know what, I just can't leave him like this. If he would have asked me for money, if I would have smelled alcohol in his breath, whatever, that would have changed my mind.
Well, we're going to take a quick break.
Okay.
This is such a warm story, and there's more to it. So if you'll just stay with us for a minute, we have to take a quick break. You're listening to The Ralph Baley Show. I'm guest host Lisa Kimble. We're talking to Steve Flores. We'll be back.
News Talk 1180 KERN, and streaming live at KERNradio.com.
Don't we, though? I love that song, JR. That's a good one.
Good choice, Mijo.
Good choice. I'm Lisa Kimble. I'm filling in today for Ralph Baley, who's taking some well-deserved time off this week. He's on vacation. I'm with J.R. Flores, who's at the Master Controls. And we're wrapping up our conversation this hour with one of my favorite people, Steve Flores, who is a local government consultant and longtime member of the local media and a weekly columnist for the Bakersfield Californian. You wrote something that was published yesterday about the invisible man that teaches, hopefully, all of us really a valuable lesson. So I had to cut you off in the middle of the story to go into a break, but there's more to the story.
There is, and there's a lot more to the story. And when he was trying to push himself to the next intersection, like we talked about, I heard my grandmother's voice talking to me again about those encounters that you have with people, and you should pray when it happens, and whenever you can, be compassionate and help in whatever form that is. So I went and got my daughter Nikki and her husband Carlos and explained to them just a little bit about what had happened, and they said, "Dad, let's go find him." So we drove around that Friday evening, couldn't find the invisible man anywhere. Saturday morning we got up, drove around, couldn't find him downtown. Sunday morning we couldn't find him. So he was truly invisible, or he did what he wanted to do, and what he wanted to do was go back home to Oakland, and he was waiting for the first of the month to get his money so he could buy his ticket. So we were very disappointed, and we had a T-shirt that I wanted to give him at least to start with, so he would have something clean on him. So although this wasn't in the story, it was later, and I think Monday night, I was driving downtown hoping to find him one more time, and I saw him. I found him. So I pulled around and parked my car so I could face him, and he was in his wheelchair, and I thought, please, don't pull out a bottle of wine or anything like that. I'm going to be so crushed. And he sat there, and people passed him by, and I watched him for about 10 minutes, and he didn't ask anybody for money. He reached in his pocket, was like counting his change, and put it back in his pocket. So I waited long enough for my heart to feel like, okay, I can go to him and talk to him. So I went to him and I said, "Hello, how you doing?" He looked up at me and says, "Oh, good, how are you?" He says, "Do you remember me from the other day?" He goes like this, shields his eyes, and he says, "I meet so many people all the time. I don't think I do." And I said, "Well, tell me, what are you doing here? What's up?" So he repeated the same story that he did the first time that I met him, about how he was here from Oakland trying to get back home. Basically, the story was the same. Same thing. Didn't smell any alcohol on him, and he was genuine in everything that he said to me. So I said, I wish my daughter Nikki were here, my son-in-law Carlos were here, because there's something I can't talk about.
Oh, because they were so moved by the story that you shared with them, that they kind of gathered together what money they could. Right.
And so what I did was I had the T-shirt. I said, "This is from me, and this money is from my family," and gave it to him. And he said, if he could have jumped up out of his wheelchair, I think he would have. But he said, "Can I give you a hug?" I said, "Yeah, you can give me a hug." Oh. So he did, and he started crying. And so I started crying. And it was just sad, for us to be in that alley just crying together like that. But, it was something that I think he did more for me than my family could have ever done for him. Mm-hmm. And wherever he is, I hope he's on his way, or he's back home to Oakland and with his family, and so that he's not invisible anymore, and that people see him and
absolutely help him. And I always tell my children, these may be, a lot of people may view these people as sort of society's discards, but I always look at these individuals who are down and out. I mean, this was somebody's father, might have been somebody's father, right, brother, somebody's child at one point.
Well, and the other thing too, Lisa, is for your listeners, how many of them have ever truly been desperate in their lives? And this man was desperate, but he never gave that to me. And the other thing is that my role as a father and an uncle and a grandfather is to be an example to my family of the compassion that hopefully they'll give back to the community also.
Well, it's a beautiful story. It's a beautiful column. If you haven't read it, you can read it at Bakersfield.com online. The Invisible Man. Steve Flores is the author. Steve, it's always a pleasure to visit and catch up. Thank you for coming on the show today.
Thank you, Lisa.
And bless you, and for sharing that great example with the community and the readers of how we all can make a difference, big or small, in the lives of someone else. So
Thank you, Lisa.
we're going to take a break. Coming up on the 4 o'clock hour, more fun on the